In the ICO craze of 2017, we saw a proliferation of tokenized securities. None of those projects exist anymore. What do you guys think is the reason that that initial push for RWA failed, and what has changed in the industry that has opened up the possibility for what we're seeing today?
So, worked through like 2017, worked with a ton of companies looking to do like ICOs and other token distributions. And you basically get the SEC that hands out a bunch of subpoenas in the beginning of 2018, crashes that entire market. And everybody starts looking at like, okay, what do I do now? And everybody's like, okay, let's go tokenize securities. There was two issues with that. Number one, a lot of people were selling them to people who had the belief that they were just like crypto, except they're just securities. And then the second one was a misunderstanding on like what a tokenized security really is. And things like, hey, this is now like available to the world. And the answer is like, you could take any security and make it available to the world. The question's just like, what regulations are you going to comply with? There are people like, oh, it's easier access. And the answer is like, I can create a digital platform and a digital security that isn't on a blockchain and sell it like really easily. But things like 24/7 trading, increased liquidity, coding regulatory stuff into the tokens or the infrastructure, those are all things that actually are better. The problem is none of that existed at all. People were going ahead and trying to do this, and you just like hit a roadblock after roadblock. And even if you get through and you're like, okay, a token is this, then you're like, oh, so now one of the great things is you can like trade this with like transparency and like very easily. Where? Well, nowhere. You just literally didn't have the infrastructure to do it. And so you started seeing, players go ahead and saying, okay, we need to build like regulatory infrastructure for this. But it was at a point in time where, frankly, interest started dropping because the infrastructure wasn't there. You'd go ahead and try to tokenize a security, and you would literally pay like 10x what you would pay just to sell the security normally. The good thing is we've basically had platforms that have continued to build. Then you also have the DeFi ecosystem. So things have kind of like changed since then from like an infrastructure perspective that didn't exist back in 2018, which is why it all flopped.